Welcome to my world, another day, another time, another period for knowledge acquisition. Knowledge is power, health is wealth. I shall be taking you on the topic, importance of WBC in infection. WBC is what we call white blood cells or leukocytes. They are present in every blood, every ounce of blood that you bring out. But the red blood cells are known because the blood itself is red. And what makes it red are the red blood cells. The white blood cells generally are not that white, but they are not red either. But they look more like transparent or translucent in a way when you look at them under the microscope. So they are called white blood cells because they can be called, they look like whites. I have chosen this topic so that we can understand that WBCs are cells that serve a particular purpose. They serve the purpose of fighting infection. They are immune cells. So when they are proliferating, that is, they are in very large numbers, you start suspecting that there is infection going on around there. It's like having vultures all over the places. You will be suspecting that, yes, there is dead body or there are dead bodies around that area. So the white blood cells proliferate once there is an attack on the human body. They proliferate to really quench the problem that is about to bring the human body or the person down. And that is what we as medical laboratory scientists look out for and count and even differentiate, because they perform different functions, and that I shall expatiate on. So their role in infection will be made explicit as we move on to the slide session. If you like what you are looking at, press the like button, subscribe, and let's move on. Importance of WBC in infection. Outline, objective, introduction, type of WBC, function of the different types, WBC implication, and conclusion. Objective, to show the importance of laboratory tests done to confirm the derangement from normal of WBC count in collected blood samples. Introduction. A cell is the simplest or smallest unit of any living thing capable of independent existence. When the same type of cell aggregate together to serve similar purpose, the same purpose, they are called tissues. And an organ is made up of many different tissues. The WBCs are cells. They are immune cells produced in the bone marrow, move to the peripheral blood systems and the lymphatic vessels, where they differentiate to specialized cells to fight or engulf bacteria, parasites, fungi, and viruses. These are the types of WBCs. You have the monocyte, the lymphocyte, the neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. All of them have different functions that to combat infection. This is the monocyte differentiating into macrophages or dendrites. Their main function is to engulf, phagocytic functions to engulf the parasite. And you can see the other one called antigen presentation. It presents and activates the T cells. T cells are the lymphocytes cells. So that's the classical function. Function of the neutrophil. We can see that the neutrophil is regarded as the first immune cells that arrives at the point of infection, mainly bacteria, and they have high number. It's always the highest, 40 to 50%, and up to 70% in serious infection. They contain granules and lysozymes that lyse these bacteria and anything that stimulated them. The eosinophil from is very reddish and has very coarse granules. They are about 2 to 4%. Like neutrophil, they migrate from blood vessels and contain lysozymes, enzymes, and peroxidases in their granules, which are toxic to parasites, resulting in the destruction of the organisms. And when you look at them, it's very typical. Basophil are least abundant, just 0 to 1% in inflamed tissues. They become mast cells and secrete granules containing heparin, histamine, and other protein that promotes inflammation. So when you're talking of inflammation, which is another problem, protection against infection and what have you, you can be looking up for basophil, and even in allergic response. The monocytes are the biggest. They consider about 5%, or also consider phagocytic granulocytes. I've spoken about them. Circulating leukocytes, you can see them around, and they are transformed to macrophages. White blood cells are lymphocytes. The lymphocytes are the major ones that they don't really phagocyte. They are the one that produce the antibody. The B cells, you can see one looking like the B, like blue, and that's B cells producing antibodies. It transforms to plasma cell in order to produce antibody, and also memory cells after the attack. So the T cells are produced in the thymus gland, and they really perform the function of cell-mediated immune response, where the CD4, the helper function and cytotoxic functions is performed. There is also the natural killer cells that attacks cells. But all these cells, we see them under the microscope. WBC implication: when you have high neutrophil, it's called neutrophilia, and the counts are higher, from 70 and even more than that, and it's usually indicating the acute infection is happening. The specific infection you will not know. The same thing happens when there is a reduction of a neutrophil. That is called neutropenia. The condition is bone marrow disorder, when the bone marrow is not producing enough, and in tuberculosis, where the response of neutrophil is not usually felt. There is also eosinophilia, when the count of eosinophil in the film is very high in the blood, and is always a situation of allergic reaction, asthma, parasitemia, malaria, or intestinal parasitism. The disorder could be when it is low, decreased count, and usually as a result of stress or Cushing's syndrome. By way of conclusion, WBCs are also known as leukocyte and pulse cells. They occupy a central position in discerning infection from contamination, especially in microbiological or bacteriological investigation. However, some patients could be on immunosuppressive drugs that will not allow the proliferation of WBCs in their state of infection. So it is advisable to know the status of immunosuppressive patients. Some organisms initiate cell-mediated response that could also be cloud liquid. Organisms like Mycobacterium tuberculosis. You can hook up to more on my slide videos on